There is always something to explore in Seattle. You don't always need to be a tourist. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My Family of Four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate out from there. Please grab a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the American West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. The Emerald City has changed a lot over the years. We no longer have the Kingdom or the Pink Elephant Car Wash. The Sit and Spin laundromat and bar is also of a bygone era. That doesn't mean, though, that Seattle still isn't a place to spend time in. Joining us on this episode is Connor of Find Me in Seattle. He shares his story about how he sort of fell into this role of creator, how he became known for his iconic yellow backpack, and he shares some of the off-the-beaten places to go see in Seattle. Connor, thank you so much for joining us here on RV Out West.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
Yeah, so first off, why don't you tell us just a bit about yourself?
So I'm Connor. I go by Find Me in Seattle. I live in Seattle. I moved here in 2011. I was originally born and raised in the Los Angeles area, and then I went to college in Oregon, moved up here, and this is where I'm going to stay for the rest of my life, unless someone pays me a ton of money to move elsewhere. I really think the Pacific Northwest and Seattle specifically is my home now, and I absolutely love living here.
First off, where in LA? Were you in LA proper? I used to live in Ojai. So I'm kind of
no. Yeah, so I grew up in Santa Clarita, and so that's 126 east from where you were off the beach. But yeah, I was in Ventura all the time. That was kind of like our local beach that we would go to on the weekends or holidays.
Okay, so then you graduated, went to university in Oregon. What was the draw from going, university to kind of come up and start your career in professional adulting life in Seattle?
Yeah, so it was really about the opportunity of jobs at the time. I got my first job was based out of Bellevue. I was a recruiter, an IT recruiter. So it was working for an agency trying to place software developers at Amazon, Microsoft, T-Mobile, Boeing, all the big tech companies. And really just this was where the opportunity when I was at school in Oregon, it was I could move back to California or Portland or Seattle. And Portland just didn't have the diversity of jobs that Seattle did. So kind of just the natural place to end up. It did not take me long to feel settled here. It didn't take me long to feel settled in the Pacific Northwest at all. Like there was always kind of a calling. And when I first arrived at Oregon, I just knew like, oh, this is better suited towards me than the Los Angeles lifestyle was.
And it felt like home. I get that. I totally get that. So let's kind of dig in a little bit and tell me a bit about kind of Find Me in Seattle. What is it? How did it happen? How did you get the idea? How did it start? What's the story there?
So from 2016 to beginning of 2018, I worked for this startup that we were making these printed neighborhood guides to all the Seattle neighborhoods, and they highlighted all the local businesses in each given neighborhood. So I was a millennial selling advertising door to door, kind of unheard of thing to do. And I started an Instagram account, not only to connect with those businesses and use that as a sales tool, but just really to show my now wife, then girlfriend, what I was doing every day. Because when I would tell her like, oh, I went out to Ballard and I walked down the street and I walked into every single business on that street and just picked up business cards and got to know whoever the bartender or server or manager was there. And it's like, was hard to grasp, like, what are you doing? So I started this Instagram account. And I would make these Instagram stories and I would say hi to my wife. And then I'd be like, I'm going to walk down the street and here are the 10 businesses that I met today. And then I just started telling stories about those little businesses. And that helped me build those relationships. And eventually those businesses were like, Connor, we don't really care so much about this thing that you're coming here to sell us, but we see that you're building the social media following, you're taking pictures. And when you post about us, people show up. All right. So people are following you and listening to you. And so they're like, will you help us with our Facebook page or our Instagram page or our website? And so I left that company and I started my own marketing consulting business. And that was now 6 years ago that I've been independent and been doing it ever since. And Find Me in Seattle is kind of grown a ton since then. It's still just a one-person show. And I tell stories about people and places, local businesses in the greater Seattle area, just interesting things that connect with me. Yeah, it's just kind of grown this unique local following, carrying around my signature yellow backpack. And now people on the street, when they see the yellow backpack in Seattle, it's like, oh, there's the Find Me in Seattle guy.
Well, it is super funny you mentioned that, because one of my question is, what is the deal with the yellow backpack? I love it, but like, what's the deal? Yeah,
it makes no sense.
Yeah, no, what's the story? Come on now.
So the first yellow backpack that I had was this company called Tuluma Totes. I saw them on Shark Tank, and Tuluma Totes was sourcing all the materials from third world countries. And so they were like going to little shops in Ghana or in Thailand and buying all the materials and buying burlap sacks and like making these backpacks. And then part of the proceeds of that backpack like went back as a microloan to that business. And I just thought that was like super cool. So I bought this yellow backpack, and people just started to get to know me in this door-to-door sales job. They said, the kid with the blonde hair and the yellow backpack's here again. I just heard that over and over and over again. And then people would just comment on the yellow backpack. And so in the door-to-door sales job, I just built up the reputation of the guy with the yellow backpack is here to sell you things or give you maps or whatever it was to do. And it just stuck, and it became a thing. And I just figured out like, oh, the yellow backpack is how people know me. I guess I'm going to just keep the yellow backpack. Now I'm on my 6th yellow backpack. It's become my logo, and it's my brand. I've got like all different versions of them. I got kind of the fanny pack style, and yeah, it just kind of naturally happened. And I've always known with businesses, like having something that you can identify with and that people attach to. And I never thought that at, over the age of 30, I'd be known for wearing a backpack. It sounds kind of childish, but it seems to work, and people remember it, and it's so bright and sticks out. And it's got its own unique thing that people see it from far away. And so when people are on the bus or they're driving by, like they'll see me from far away, and they'll roll down their window, shout at me, run up, tap me on the shoulder and say, I found you, all those things. And so it's just really stuck. And so I couldn't get away from it.
Well, that's really fun. Now, is yellow your favorite color?
No, definitely not. I think I'm more partial to green. Okay. Greens and blues, I think, are more my like favorite color. But now I do have an affinity for yellow. People kind of attach me to the color. Like I know people are just listening here, but like I've got a yellow pair of Nike sitting behind me that my sister-in-law gave me, and they're like customs. They find me in Seattle on them, and so she's like, "Here, like you're the yellow backpack guy. Here's some yellow shoes also." And so I think this like yellow color accent is gonna follow me for as long as I do this. But that's building a brand, and that's building a business.
So if somebody is listening and they are not familiar with Find Me in Seattle right now, kind of what if they were to go over to your Instagram feed or your TikTok feed right now, give me a little bit of a deep dive on kind of what they could expect to see and find out.
My cornerstone of the videos that I make are called Seattleites You Should Know. And they're just 1-minute profiles on people that I find interesting in the city. And they could be from some person that nobody knows about, and he imports olive oil from Argentina, to Ethan Stoll, who's kind of the biggest restaurateur in Seattle now. He owns the most restaurants. He's kind of like the guy in the restaurant scene. So kind of high to low, famous to the random Ethiopian shop owner on the corner. Just kind of, as I meet people and I find them interesting, I say, I want to share that story. I try to make a story about them.
That is very cool. So I've been following you now for about 2 years, and I've seen, 1 minute you're in Ballard, and then the next minute you're down in Soto, and the next minute you're up on Capitol Hill, just bouncing around doing your thing. What has been your top 3 favorite finds in Seattle? What are they and why?
My top 3 favorite finds in Seattle.
Yep.
Right now are, number 1 is the ferry. Taking the ferry is, I think, the most underrated thing that you can do in Seattle. Specifically, the Bainbridge ferry is like the easy go-to answer. Get on the ferry, you get this incredible view. If you're coming to or from at that sunset time, like almost guaranteed to get that pretty pink light shining on the city over on the island. You get off on Bainbridge. They've got a cute little street over there with restaurants and shops, and going and spending a day like that, like I think that's like the best way to spend a day in Seattle. So that's like my top find, which I know is not specifically a business, but Another place that I absolutely love is inside Pike Place Market. It's called Pasta Casalinga. And they are just like this little walk-up counter. They have 4 dishes every single day, 3 pastas and a lasagna. And the lasagna, or I'm sorry, in the pasta, there's one from the ocean, one from the farm, and one from the garden. So the garden is the vegetable one, the farm is the meat one, and the sea one is the seafood one. And I just think that place is a home run. Like, no one really thinks, oh, I'm going to go to Pike Place Market, I need to go eat at this Italian pasta place. But that's the must visit place for me.
Wait, I need
when
more
you're in Seattle.
information. I need more information because I've not been there. I love the pickle place that's over on the other side.
Yep.
It does the fermented pickles and the pickle juice, and you can have shots of pickle juice. But I have not yet found this place, and my wife's Italian. So spill the beans. Where can I find this place next time I'm down at the market?
Pasta Casalinga is located on the south end in the atrium. So if you're looking at the famous Pike Place Market sign where they throw the fish,
Yep.
if you walk up to the people with the fish and you turn left and you kind of like weave around that spot there, you'll end up in the atrium. It's between that. It's right next to Pike Place Brewery.
Yeah.
And it's on the second floor, and they've got this atrium kitchen and like dining tables. And Michaela is their owner. She's Italian. She's there pretty much all the time. And so, yeah, if your wife is Italian and Michaela's working there, like, you're going to get the experience. And my big thing with Find Me in Seattle is when you meet specifically the owners of these businesses and you hear their story and you get to like share with them and you understand why they were crazy enough to start these businesses, because starting restaurant food businesses is insanity. It's really a complicated, very hard business to make a living on. And when you hear their story and the struggle and the things that they had to endure, they endure every day in order to serve you that food, it makes the food taste better. And Michaela is one of those people that going to Pike Place Market and meeting her and then eating her food, it makes you feel good.
So cool. Okay. And the third one?
Third place is donuts. We kind of, over the last couple of years, we've gone through like a donut revolution in Seattle. There's all these donut pop-ups that have come and gone, and the ones that are really good that have the great pop-ups have turned into brick and mortar spots. And so my favorite donut shop is in the Central District. It's called Raised Donuts, RAISED. When I started my Instagram account, Mi Kim is the owner there. She started doing these pop-ups. They're yeast raised donuts. And I just think they're more unique than like the classic donut shop donut that you're going to get. The other pop-up style donut that you see in the city are brioche donuts, but there's like 6 brioche donut businesses. They're all the same. I think Mi Kim and Raised Donuts are actually unique. They have their own unique flavors. There's not a donut that tastes like them. And the donut that I love from them are these dehydrated raspberry donut holes. So she takes raspberries, dehydrates them, and like makes them into like a crumble and rolls the donut holes in them. So they're like this bright red color, and those donut holes are amazing. They're one of my favorite treats in the whole city.
That sounds pretty amazing. Next time I'm heading over to the CD, I know where I'm going to go to Raised. I'm going to have to go check that place out.
Yeah, the CD really is kind of going through its own transformation. There is so much incredible food, specifically for dinner there right now. If you can find some parking, there's just some great places to go eat.
Well, now wait, you can't leave with that. Now you got to tell me what's like.
Well, there's Communion. Communion has good luck getting in there. You're gonna have to make a reservation well beforehand. But there's another spot that I really love called Jerk Shack. Jerk Shack for a long time was located in Belltown. I think around that pandemic time, they moved to this new building in the Central District. They're actually in the same building that Raised Donuts is, and it's you're gonna get jerk chicken. Something that I've always loved, which I'm not sure is currently on the menu, is the Rasta pasta. But yeah, both those businesses are just gonna fill you. They're soul food. They're gonna fill you up. You're gonna have a good time. You should get some cocktails and an Uber home.
Now, has there been a place that has eluded you that you've wanted to explore, but you've just not yet done so?
I wasn't gonna say this answer, but I feel like I have to. The place that has eluded me is Canlis, Seattle's most famous restaurant, high-end restaurant, right? It's going to cost a couple $100 to go eat there. You got to wear a suit, or at least a suit jacket, to go eat there. I have never eaten there. I've really intentionally not gone there. I guess I could go there if I want, but there is so many unique, small local businesses here that Canlis, Seattle's most famous restaurant, has eluded me, and I'll go eventually, but it's not a place that I've prioritized to this point. What about you, Brooks? What do you have a spot that you've really wanted to try that you haven't been to?
From a restaurant perspective,
yeah, or you could take it in a different direction if you got something in mind.
Everybody on the show knows my biggest place that I've never gone to, and I'm so embarrassed to admit it. I'm going to admit it again. This will probably be the third time. Mount St. Helens. I've never been. I'm born and raised Washingtonian. I'm old enough. I was alive. I remember when Mount St. Helens blew her top. I've never been. So that I got to fix that sooner than later. But from a restaurant perspective or something to do in Seattle, we finally went to the Pink Door.
Great.
But we did Pink Door at lunchtime only because I couldn't get a dinner reservation. And I really want to go see their kind of dinner show with the acrobatics and the things they have there. So
that was going to be my follow-up question is, did they have entertainment at lunch?
They didn't. No.
Okay.
We did sit on the other side of the restaurant. So we were on that side where we had the cool overlooking of the Puget Sound and the boats and, whatever. So we were on that side of the dining room, but we weren't able to get the show. And so I do want to try and make that happen where we go and see the show.
Was the food was good though?
Food was great for an Italian, whatever. Yes, it was good. They had these fig, like they were like caprese bacon wrapped figs. Like they were just exquisite. They were amazing. So no, the meal was fantastic for the price point. We were my family of 4 plus my mother-in-law was visiting from Philly. And so my wife and my mother-in-law, they're Philadelphian Italians, right?
High standards.
And we have yet to find decent Italian here in the Pacific Northwest. Pink Door was good. It was good. But, for that local, like, hey, it's Friday night. I don't feel like cooking. I just want to, let's go find a little place to pick up some lasagna and some carbonara and take home or sit there and have. We don't have, any of those little mom and pop places typically are way too greasy, just not,
Yep.
And that's okay, right? Same thing with pizza, right? So, it's fine. I go back east and I get my filling of pizza and whatever. I will say a recommendation for you, and I don't know how you are going to do this now because in a post 9/11 world, it makes a little trouble, but I think Find Me in Seattle needs to go to the Soundgarden.
To the Soundgarden?
To the Soundgarden.
Well, you got to tell me, maybe I'm not even familiar. What is the Soundgarden?
So the Soundgarden is a sound sculpture over by where the Children's Hospital is in the Sandpoint neighborhood area of Seattle, kind of north of the U District there. It's on NOAA land, National Oceanic Administration land.
Okay.
So before 9/11, you could go and see this sound sculpture. But because of the way the Mount Lake Cut is and how the Lake Union is, this artist created these different sound sculptures. So as the wind whips over, the Soundgarden hums.
Oh, wow.
It hums in a chorus, kind of like whatever. It's very cool. And that is how the grunge band Soundgarden got their name.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so that's how they got their name. We used to go there in high school and do this whole thing. But I believe in a post 9/11 world, because that's government land, it's now no longer necessarily accessible for just Joe Schmo to go onto the property. So Find Me in Seattle is going to need to find a way to talk yourself onto that. Take that challenge. You won't regret it. It is very cool.
I just wrote this down in my notebook. I'm going to take you up on that challenge. Yeah. I will. I'll see who I know to see who can maybe
Google
me over there.
And go on Wikipedia and read about the Soundgarden. It is the coolest thing ever. And it's a shame that people can't go and enjoy this artist sculpture thing.
Yeah. To block off something that is public art like that is kind of a shame. I've never even heard it before. And I kind of
you're gonna have to
pride myself on knowing these things.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm going to ask you this. If you were chatting to a fellow Washingtonian who perhaps is maybe not a Seattleite, but they've been to Seattle before, and they've done Pike Place, they've done the Gom Wall, they've gone to the Troll, they've been to the museums, they've seen shows at Benaroya Hall, they've, whatever, they've had Dick's Burgers and they've, whatever. But let's just say that this particular individual or family only has a day to spend in Seattle. How would you suggest they spend that day?
I'm going to tell you to go I'm going to assume you have a car. Having a car is very helpful
of
here.
course, yes. We're
You
not
could
on
ride the
PT.
bus, but
Nope, we're not on PT.
I'm going to Ballard.
Okay.
I'm going to get coffee at any of the coffee shops. There's a billion of them, but let's start at Cafe Umbria. They're kind of like a local spot. They've probably got 6 different cafes across the city. Get some coffee, get a pastry there. Then you're going to jump back in your car and you're going to go towards Golden Gardens, and you're going to go to Un Bien, and you are going to get yourself a roasted pork sandwich from Un Bien. And then you have 2 options. You can either pick up the sandwich to go and drive to Golden Gardens and hang out on the beach all day. Golden Gardens is like this unique beach community that is like you're not even in Seattle, right? You got the water, there's no waves, but you got the sand. They've got fire pits if you're there in the summer at night, and you can just like hang out. It's like this whole beach vibe. You don't even feel like you're in the city. Eat your food there, hang out all day, bring the picnic, bring the blankets, bathing suits, whole 9 yards. You could also, next to Un Bien is this surf shop, and you could rent a paddleboard from the surf shop, and they have a public beach across the street. It's called Secret Beach, and you could take the paddleboard down to the public beach, or I'm sorry, to Secret Beach, and you could go paddle around there. That body of water goes all the way down. You could take it all the way down the Fremont Cut, go all the way down, check out Google, check out Fremont Bridge, Aurora Bridge, if you were strong enough to paddle that far, and all the way back. And I think just like going out and sitting on those beaches away from the city is probably something that most people who know the city really well have like never actually done. Do you have a recommendation for this?
Have you had the 12 egg omelet at Best Cafe?
Yeah, we lost them for a little while, but they're back.
We did. I'm so glad that they're back. I was sad when I saw that they didn't. I thought they weren't going to make it through the vid. So
the 12 egg omelet is pretty legendary, though.
It is legendary.
I haven't been there in a couple of years now, but I'm curious. I'm curious because they used to be open 24/7 also. Yeah. That was like the big thing. I can't imagine they're still open 24/7, but maybe they are.
We used to go like after shows, and in high school we'd go drink coffee and smoke cigarettes, and like 6 of us would share a 12 egg omelet. And
back in the day, did you ever go to a place called Hurricane?
Yeah. And before it was the Hurricane, I want you to know it was called the Doghouse. And if you go to Mohi, there's a sign at the Doghouse that says all roads lead to the Doghouse. And I was so bummed because at the Doghouse, they had a bar, and this guy, Dick Dickerson, would play in the bar, and he was like the piano man, right? So he was doing like the little piano, covering like Neil Diamond songs, and he'd hear all these drunk people singing Sweet Caroline coming. And I was like, God, I can't wait till I'm 21 and I can go see Dick Dickerson. I didn't even know what the dude looked like. I just was like, I want to go see Dick Dickerson. Nope. And then, of course, the Doghouse sold. It became the Hurricane. The Hurricane was great. I was 21, so then I'd go get like the oil can of Foster's because I was, that's like,
yeah.
I'm looking at volume over quality, So I'd sit in there and whatever. Yeah. So the Hurricane, Hurricane was great.
That was like a classic 24/7 spot. We used to have a few spots in Seattle that you could go at 24/7, and like none of those exist. I think there is one spot. It's called it's down by the stadium. I'm blanking on the name. I digress. But yeah, Best Cafe reminds me of a time of the past when businesses were a little different. And now Hurricane Cafe, I think that's like all Amazon buildings now.
It is. It's gone.
It's not what it used to be.
Yep. Let's see. I would recommend for people, if I were to tell somebody to go, Theater Sports is on my list. I would tell people to go check out Theater Sports on a Friday or Saturday night down there in Post Alley.
Yep, that's a great recommendation.
Because if anybody's ever enjoyed that show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Theater Sports is essentially Whose Line Is It Anyway live, and it's great. Yeah, I don't know. Place to eat. I'm going to go, right? Maybe I'm pulling in the short time that I spent living in Philadelphia, but Colozzi's. For a Philly cheesesteak, or Tat's Deli down there on Yesler.
Yep.
To go get a cheesesteak would be good.
I don't know if I've had the cheesesteak from Colozzi's before.
Oh, it's fantastic because the two brothers are from New Jersey and they ship in the Amoroso rolls. So you can't really order a cheesesteak and call it a Philly cheesesteak unless you're putting it on the Amoroso rolls. So those guys are doing it right. And that's the other thing. If you're going to do it, you order a whiz wit. You just want steak,
Whiz wit,
onions, and cheese whiz. Don't go adding peppers. Don't go getting all fancy with provolone or any of that bullshit. Like, you need to call your cardiologist and your urologist when you're done. Like, if it's not, it has to plug you up. Where's your favorite cocktail place in the city?
Cocktails are tough for me, actually, because I am not much of a drinker.
Okay.
Surprisingly. So nowadays, I'm trying to think where would I tell someone to go get a cocktail? Probably at Navy Strength in Belltown would probably be the spot. They're more like Instagrammable.
Okay.
Those are Instagrammable cocktails. But when I was more into the bar scene, I would always recommend Needle and Thread. The story I always tell at Needle and Thread was I was there with some friends, and one of the girls told the bartender, Needle and Thread, you have to walk through a phone booth to get in there. So there's a bar called Tavern Law. It's a normal bar, but if you have a reservation at Needle and Thread, you walk into the phone booth, you pick up the phone, and they take if you're on the list, the back door of the phone booth opens up. You walk up these stairs, and there's like a private bar upstairs. Then there's no menu. You just talk to the bartender, kind of tell them what you're into, and they're going to make something for you.
Super
And
cool.
one of the girls that I was with, she was like, I love Christmas. And they made this Christmas cocktail for her that was just like, it was one of those drinks like, everyone's got to try this because it was just spot on. Like that, the fact that they got Christmas as a detail and they just made this drink that made her feel like Christmas was just a cool experience to have something like that.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. If you could invite 3 Seattleites to be guests at your dinner table, who are they and why?
3. These are, do they have to be alive?
Yes.
They have to be alive.
They need to be alive. They would need to be alive because they can't come to your table if they're dead. I don't have magical powers to bring them back from the dead. So let's go with 3 Seattle, and they need to be Seattleites.
They need to be Seattleites. I'm kind of going through my list of
go through your mental Rolodex.
Who is relevant right now? The first person who came to my mind who's just very trendy right now is this new guy, Benson Boone. Are you familiar with Benson Boone? He's got one really famous song. You do not want me to sing. That would be real. Your podcast would get a lot of bad reviews.
Really?
But Benson Boone is this 22-year-old guy. He's got this song called Beautiful Things. It's like one of the top songs in the world right now. And just because he's this new Seattleite, he's someone that's like, know what? I'm curious about how he sees Seattle, how he grew up in Seattle. And now that he's this big world pop star, kind of how that worldview is changing.
Okay.
My number 2 person is going to be Ken Griffey Jr. I don't know if you count him as a Seattleite, but I think he's an adopted Seattleite. Yeah. And he's the kid. And I think in Seattle terms, he's kind of like the greatest all time. And so I've got musician, I've got athlete, and I feel like I got to kind of like go with a different genre on number 3. My mind goes sports. I can name like 45 sports people to go, but I don't want to overdo it with sports. So let's go with.
I'm struggling on my third. I'm going to answer the same question myself, but I'm struggling on my third too.
So who are the other 2?
For me?
Yep.
I think my okay, so I think I would like to talk with Chris Novoselic. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. Chris Novoselic. He was the bass player in Nirvana.
Great.
And he lives in Olympia. I would like to talk to Gary Payton. I'm a big Gary Payton basketball fan, so I, would love
bring
to hear
back
some
our
stories
Sonics.
About back in the Sonics. But my third, I don't know. I think I would want to go like literary artist, book writer, somebody along that line. Or the other person that just came to mind is Langdon Cook. He's a Seattle-based author. He wrote a fantastic book called The Mushroom Hunters, and he follows the flush of wild mushrooms from British Columbia down to Northern California, and he follows the mushroom hunters who hunt for those mushrooms and then turn around and sell them to proprietors who then turn around and sell them to Seattle restaurants who want morels or, matasukis or lobster mushrooms. And that is the largest all cash legal business, but it operates just like a seedy, drug dealing. You got some guy with a fold up table and a scale saying, I pay X amount of dollars for the mushrooms. And then these hunters come out of the woods and they're like, here you go. And they're selling them. And Langdon Cook is a cool guy. I went foraging with him once, and he's a very cool guy. So I think it'd be fun to have him back on my table.
I'm going to have to check that out. I did do a little Google here about like, who are the most famous people that you might consider? And maybe the number one person I would consider in that third spot is Bill Gates. Just someone that I wouldn't ever get an opportunity to probably be in their proximity either. Okay. But some other people who are on this list is Jeff Bezos, Macklemore. He's a Floridian now. Macklemore, which he's a spicy topic to bring up right now. Danny Bonaducci.
List too. Who was he?
Danny Bonaducci, but he just moved to Palm Springs. And Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
Bill Nye. Dave Matthews.
Yeah, Bill Nye would be cool.
Bill Nye would be probably a great conversationalist. Yeah. Dave Matthews, Howard Schultz, Dan Savage, and Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Ooh, Mix would be good too.
Yeah. I'm sure he's got some stories.
Fun. He have some stories too. Yeah. Okay. Well, so kind of on this topic in the news lately, and I'm going to say lately over the last COVID and with Chop or Chaz and all of that, Seattle seems to be kind of getting a bad rap for crime and drugs and homelessness. And as someone like you who is actively out exploring the city, from your experiences, what is your personal take on the state of the city these days?
When I think my story about the Chop Chaz time was really funny, especially it got brought up recently in a presidential debate that like our city got taken over, and it was like, a park got taken over in a little spot, and it was very sketchy, no doubt, in that certain area. But I remember it was like day 2 or day 3. And my wife and I were having a picnic at Seward Park, sitting in this beautiful spot, sunset, forest behind us, like just having a beautiful evening. And my dad calls me like freaking out. My dad doesn't live here. He's like, are you okay? What's going on? Like, do we need to come get you? Do you need anything? I was like, we're having a picnic right now, right? Like, we're just like hanging out. We picked up dinner. Like, we're having a great evening. Like, it's not this like crazy war zone. The city's pretty big. And that's like a very isolated moment. However, it was a very scary thing, very intense time that was going on. And so there's no doubt, like, our city has some big problems to get over. Affordability is crazy. Food prices are absolutely insane. We're talking about these food places right now, and like, you can't go have lunch for under $15-$20 a person now. It's really hard to go get something that's affordable. And dinners are even crazy. If my wife and I go out to dinner, we don't get any alcohol. It's still going to cost us $60 to $75 at like a Thai restaurant, nothing like fancy. And so the affordability is a problem that brings in all the homeless problem. Obviously, there's a drug problem. And there's little pockets, right? There's a spot by Pike Place Market that I will avoid. I was like, I'm not going to bother walking through that area on 3rd on the bus line. And so there are the problems. But when I look, every major city has always forever had these pockets and had these problem areas. There's never been a city that's a big city in human history that didn't have problematic people. When you're going to put 1 million people in a, let's call it 10 square mile area, like, there's going to be people who are problematic. There's going to be people with emotional and health problems. Like, that's just life in the city. And no matter how old or young you are, you have always heard these stories about problems in the city. But my job is, or something that I take responsibility for, is showing off there is so many beautiful things going on here. There's just thousands and thousands of incredible people who are normal, who are hardworking, who are trying to make a living, who are trying to build community, who are trying to build successful businesses that are inviting to everybody to come in and share a meal. Why I share so many restaurants is because sharing food, breaking bread with other human beings is like one of the most special things that we get to do on a daily basis. And we take it for granted many times. But if you get to go to a place and you're spending this money to hang out, and people are serving you and they're giving you these beautiful, delicious food, and you get to like socialize and have a drink and have fun and enjoy yourself. Like that is the beauty of life. And I think we don't take advantage enough of like really absorbing and enjoying those moments. And that is happening all over the city, all over, all the time. There are so many people that are doing well for themselves. There is plenty of successful people, right? I just made that list. There's plenty of successful people going on here. And so for all of the negative things that you hear about drugs and homelessness, like there is way more people who are doing incredible things that are helpful and kind and nice and want to talk to you and greet you in their place. So I think it's very much overblown, but I also recognize that we have plenty of problems as a growing city. In the year 2024, the city has just exploded, and there's a lot of things that we got to do to continue to grow and, you know, become the city that we want to be.
What I want to do is I have a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind, rapid fire. Let's do this. But let's start with best coffee shop.
I love Anchorhead in downtown Seattle, and specifically, I love their chocolate milk cold brew.
Okay. Best record store. I'm a vinyl geek, so best record store.
Best record store, Jive Time in Fremont.
Yeah, that is a really good one. I've spent a lot of money in that place, so I would concur. Best bookstore.
Elliott Bay Bookstore in Capitol Hill.
Okay. Best place to spend an afternoon.
Golden Gardens Park.
Okay. Best taco joint.
Ooh, this one's a hot one. Right now, I'll say Carmelo's Tacos, which is located on Capitol Hill.
Okay. Favorite place to see live music.
If you haven't been in the new Crocodile, I think is kind of cool. And they've got like 3 different venues inside the Crocodile. And so I'm going to go, Crocodile, because they're an institution here in Seattle.
My last show before the world shut down was seeing the Hold Steady at the old Crocodile there on whatever that was, first or second, whatever. First, I think it was like First and Battery or whatever they were.
Yep, that must have probably like one of the last shows there.
That was, I saw the Hold Steady, and then like a week and a half later, the world shut down, and I was like, well, that's it for live music. So The Croc has a special place in my heart. What are your future plans for Find Me in Seattle?
Future plans are kind of continue business as usual. I consider my videos making art. So if I can make more art than make videos that are my client videos, you know, which are things that pay the bills, then I think I'm going to continue to have like a pretty joyful professional career, you know, kind of being an artist while being a business person. Yeah. And so the goal is just always create more art than everything else. And I say this every single year since I started my business. My New Year's resolution is don't go broke, stay in business, don't have to go get a job. If I do that, I'm feeling really good about another successful year. Exactly.
Well, as we are finishing here, where can people follow along on your adventures, Connor? Tell us, where can we follow along and participate and join in the conversation?
You can look for at Find Me in Seattle on any platform that's out there. If you're a TikTok user, YouTube Shorts, Facebook, Instagram, X, or Twitter, I'm on all of them. And if something starts to pop up, I will also be there. And so Find Me in Seattle. And if you see me in my yellow backpack, please come say hi. I have a little sticker that I give out to everyone who finds me in real life. And so please, if you see me, see the yellow backpack, like I beg you, please come say hi to me. It's so cool to meet people in real life that I know from the internet.
Oh, totally. 100%. And I'm going to find you one day, and we're going to get a selfie together in real life in Seattle, probably at a coffee shop will be my go. I'll probably find you at a coffee shop. Would be my
We can make that happen.
I hope that the RVers listening are not thinking I strayed too far, and they realize that there's a lot of fun things that one can do with an RV while they're in Seattle. So I'm trying to tie it back in, but it's been incredible.
There are so many parks and beautiful places to go take your RV and enjoy the Pacific Northwest and Seattle in general that I'm sure there's plenty of incredible places to go find.
I would agree. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brooks. We'll talk to you soon.
If you enjoyed this episode, I'm asking you to reach out to a friend or family member and share with them about it and share the show. Thank you again for listening to RV Out West. I sincerely appreciate it. In next week's episode, we dive headfirst into black tanks. What could be a gross conversation is actually filled with great information and a twisted sense of humor. Join us next week as we break down the best practices for caring for your black tank. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again next week. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. I sure would appreciate it if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing us the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.